A new CBS News poll shows voters from both parties are questioning whether President Biden is up to the job for another term. Since last week's debate, nearly 3/4 of voters say the president should not be running for office again. 86% cite his age as the leading reason why. And tonight, a new special edition of America Decides on CBS News 24/7 called America Unfiltered. The voices behind the polls looks at some of the big ideas and concerns on the minds of voters. CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, met with voters and listened to what shapes their views. Here's a preview.
Let's bring in our CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto.
You've seen the CBS News polls that show you what voters think. But behind every number is a person with a story.
That facade of the American dream, it's unraveling.
Do you think democracy is threatened?
I think there's a threat.
So I hit the road to talk to them some more. Let them tell you in their own voices.
We have to start cutting somewhere. Inflation is rampant. Have you bought food lately?
How their experiences shaped what they think.
I came to this country. We had a bagel shop, breakfast shop. It was a lot of work.
Have things gotten more difficult over the last couple of years?
Definitely more difficult.
And why there's more to it than you'd expect.
I would just like, on both sides, for men in general to stop talking about women's issues.
I think we need to find a way to accept the fact that we can be different, but overall, I think most of these people want to see the country do better. We want to see the country continue to grow.
Anthony Salvanto joins us now. Anthony, good morning. We saw you talking to voters in all different kinds of states and all different kinds of settings. What kind of issues did they say matter most to them right now?
Yeah, this is a story of the pollster goes out and talks to voters where they live, including people who took the polls. So when people ask, well, how can people think that? I thought, let them tell everybody in their voices. That's what this is all about. And what you find in common that they all have is Americans are willing to entertain a conversation with each other. I won't sugarcoat it. We have differences, we have divisions, but if you watch this, you'll see that you can at least understand where people are coming from. And I think in the end, that should be a little bit uplifting, especially for Independence Day. So that was a lot of a learning experience for me in many ways.
Uplifting, but also realistic, because we're talking about the state of democracy as well. What did people tell you, and how might it impact the direction or who they pull that lever for?
You hear a lot that people don't feel their voices are being heard. So they may have a point of view or a party, but they also have this real suspicion of the political process, that it isn't working for them. You know, one gentleman talks about the elites. I said, well, who are the elites? He says, well, it's people who are arrogant, people who think they know better than we do. So you hear a lot of that feedback from folks on either side as well, Michelle.
Last week's debate was obviously a watermark in this campaign. A new CBS News polling shows that former President Donald Trump has an edge over President Biden nationally. Tell us more about that fallout from the debate, and will we continue to see that?
So you're going to hear some of that in this documentary. After the documentary, and I taped it, went back and asked these folks about Joe Biden's age, especially for Democrats. And there's two components here. It's not so much that they aren't sure that he can do the job, it's whether he can campaign effectively. And what they're saying is not just that they feel like he might be out of touch, but their concern is they see a threat. They see a threat to democracy. And they wonder if their nominee is up for that fight. And that's what you hear them telling us, and that's what we also see reflected then again in the broader polling, Omar.
Well, and Michelle brought this up. Is this going to keep on going? Is this over for the Biden campaign, this issue, or are we going to see more of it?
Well, we've tracked for a long time these suspicions about whether or not Joe Biden in the polling is saying to have the cognitive and mental health to do the job. There was a decline right after the debate, and then a shift in Donald Trump's direction in the overall horse race. And what I mean by that is the national vote, and then, of course, what matters, the battleground states, the ones that would most decide the election. All of that is not a dramatically large lead for Donald Trump, but it is one, and it has moved in his direction, in part because Democrats say they're less likely to turn out. So you see that lower motivation coming out of all of this, and I think that's going to be the big question going forward.
We're looking forward to it. A lot of those deeper conversations. Anthony Salvanto, thank you very much. And you can catch Anthony's report, America Unfiltered, the voices behind the polls, tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern on a special edition of America Decides on CBS News 24/7.